Hey YouTube, it's Jacob here from the Rust Dimension, and today I'm going to bring to you my Shaddoll deck profile. I got first place at the locals with this, so I am really amped to show you guys what I've been playing and how the card choices I made actually made a difference going into our locals specifically, and I will emphasize more on each card choice as I go through the profile. So let's just jump right into it. So everyone plays the triple Squamata, nevertheless. This is one of the best, if not the best, Shaddoll card in the deck. As Shaddolls progress through card support, this thing will be triggering most of the cards from deck. I played the 2 Shaddoll Wendy. I had to drop down one card because most of my card choices, as you will see going forward, my deck size is never more than 40 unless there are a lot more superior extenders and so forth. So most of my profiles you'll see has a 40 card limit, and I had to drop one card going forward, and this made the most sense because whether you draw this into your hand or whether you send it from deck, I've never gotten to a point where the third one was that necessary. I've never grinded that far going forward with this specific list, but I can change it up. There is cards I can take out if the third one does come up, but so far 2 was brilliant for me. And then standard, the 2 Hedgehog. One of these can drop for the 3rd Wendy if that's all your personal preference. I chose 2 because this is a better follow-up, better card to send off the Squamata or off the construct when you have nothing to send. Still play the 2 Ariel. Awesome card, especially in this format, killing the Tri-Brigades and Drytrons using the effect to banish 3 puts them on edge, makes them nervous. They completely forget about the back row you've got or everything else that you've got once their resources have been tapped out. And then for the 1-offs, I played the 1 Dragon, 1 Shaddoll Genius. This is a lot better than a lot of people give it credit for. And then just the 1 Beast, because sometimes drawing the 1 to discard off a Nightmare or anything like that actually comes up, or drawing into the hand trap, or when you have nothing else to send, sending this to draw has been brilliant. And that's all for the Shaddolls. Then my tech choices, I played the 3 Reliona, the Magistus of Veer. This card has always been good for me. Being a light on summon, it's so much easier. They negate this, it's fine. You fuse it off with a Shaddoll in hand and problem solved. And I also play the Magistus Britta, which is a special summon from their archetype, which helps this deck climb a lot faster into the access code, or whichever rank 4 OTK you guys prefer. For me it was the access code, but we'll get to that later. So for the starters, amongst the normal Shaddoll cards, I played the 3 Veer, I played the 1 Mathematician. This was a weird choice. I just wanted an additional starter apart from the normal 3 that you'd usually have. And with the latest which is the Link 1, forgot the name, Artemis that they've released, this turns any of your Shaddolls into a light on normal summon, the spellcasters obviously, level 4 or lower. And using the Mathematician, then getting ashed or hand trapped on him is fine. Then linking this, going into the Artemis, just that your plays are open from there, fusing from here, or which other tech choices you prefer going into. The 4th normal summon in the form of Mathematician. If I could fit more in, I would. If going forward, it's not wrong playing more than 1. For me, playing just the 1 being the Earth target, because Shekinaga is my personal favorite Shaddoll. This actually worked quite well, using this in the graveyard as a material, as well as the Genius when it comes up. Just add an additional negate to the board to add pressure onto the opponent. It's won me too many games to opt not to run this at all. So those are just for me the additional starters. And then my tech choices, I played the 1 Taco Crusader and the 1 Golden Lord. Yeah, can't express how many decks I killed playing this card. They don't expect this at all. Playing Shaddoll Fusion and sending this with the Genius, chain linking the two in the grave, summoning the Shekinaga. If they respond to one of these in the grave, you pop it off with the Shekinaga. They do not expect this. This removing back row or flipping a monster face down on the field. I had no issues with Dinos, with Drytrons, using this card as a tech choice. And if you draw into this, it's not a problem, it's not a brick. If you normal summon this and you manage to link it off with something that the effect triggers, it's not once per turn. Really something to look at as a Shaddoll player. Giving this card a shot is not the worst choice ever. And then just the one Golden Lord. I had a lot of issues going into time. Most of my games, if not all of them, if I remember correctly, I ran into time and I won by life point counter. I found that the deck has a hard time closing games, so I added just the one Golden Lord for if you do draw it, it's awesome. It's a removal, and floating this back in, sending the Schism, floating this back into to punch over problematic monsters or just finishing off the game. This card was the best choice for me to use, and I've actually seen quite a few profiles running just the one. And using more than one copy it's not really mandatory, but if you'd like to, you can swap out the one Tackle Crusader for a second Golden Lord if that is your playstyle. But for me, just the one worked out perfectly. And then for the hand traps, it's just 3 Ash. I couldn't fit the Gammas in. I do have them in the side deck for if you're going second and you want the Shaddoll Fusion to resolve. So I just squeezed in these 3 for now. This was the best hand trap for me, for my locals. Internationally, the guys would use something like Veilers because they are light. For me, the Ashes did its job quite well. So that would be the flex spot internationally. For the spells, I personally want to see as many fusion spells in hand because of this is not exactly what they would consider the trap Shaddoll version. So I want to see as many fusion spells so that I can fuse, get my plays off fusing construct and so forth. I prefer trying to put up as much disruption in turn 1 than back row. So I do have some trap cards going forward, but it's not that many to destroy a board going into turn 2. So for me, the 3 Shaddoll Fusion was brilliant. As soon as there's an extra deck monster on board and you can use this fuse out of the deck, it's the best fusion card in my opinion was the Shaddoll Fusion. Then Shaddoll Fusion, using this as an OTK button came up more than the Golden Lord did. Yeah, so setting this as an additional disruption amongst the boards, and then just the 2, this can drop to 1 if you need some space for something. Like I said, for me personally, I wanted more fusion cards to be seen because I hate drawing into a lot of cards and not being able to fuse. This is a fusion based deck. This deck doesn't have enough cards to link spam or anything like that the Drytrons can. So if you don't see a fusion spell, then setting 1 or 2 cards it's almost game every time. So I chose going 2 of these, and for me, I wanted to play 2 so you can draw 1 and then you can actually search the Magistus Deck, which is the Monster Reborn, for their archetype. Sometimes if I just see any 2 other fusion spells in hand, and I normal summon the Brilliona, then I add this thing automatically because you will never fuse more than 2 times in your turn. So using this card going into the Crush Heap and then fusing again to build better boards, it came up a lot more than just a 3rd fusion for me. Alright, and then just the one Foolish Burial. In a Shaddoll deck, you can't play the game without Foolish Burial. Amongst this, for additional Foolish type cards, I played 3. This is so sad. I have to get a 3rd one. In the trap card version of the best trap version for Shaddolls as a Foolish Burial is the Sinister Shadow games. This flipping up monsters on the field didn't come up as much as it should, but it's there if it needs to happen. And this sending cards like Shaddoll Genius, or if to negate the face-up monster on the field, or the dragon to destroy a back row, it always comes up. So I can't see how Shaddoll players cannot play at least 2 of these cards in their lists. And then for the rest of the traps, I chose personally to play 3 Dino Magistus. The reason why I chose this is because I don't have any more back row removal. So once you've used the Shaddoll Dragon, then your removal is kind of done. So when you're going against counter traps or anything like that with your deck, I needed an additional card. This one was the best for me because it can banish anything, monsters or back row. And this actually triggering the Shaddolls by discarding it to the graveyard it's a no-brainer. It was a no-brainer for me. I chose these over something like the Torrential Tribute because if you set your cards, or once I don't enjoy blowing up my own board to blow up your board as well for mediocre ads. So I chose this card over the rest. I might drop this to 2 because top decking this obviously is the worst. But thus far that hasn't happened, and this has actually worked pretty well for me to remove any problems. And the fact that it banishes causes a lot more issues in today's format than most of the previous formats. So this for me was the better choice. And then just the one Shaddoll core. When you draw, it's not bad. I prefer not drawing this. This is my late game choice to mull off the construct if the third one comes up, so that you can add cards, because we usually run out of Shaddolls in the main deck quite quickly. So sending this to add a card back to hand is brilliant. And just the one Incarnation and the one Schism. I've tried playing 2 Incarnation, you draw into it, and it's stupid. When you don't draw into it, it's brilliant because then you can do the same thing more than once. But best choice is just playing the one, use it, and try and kill them in the next turn in the form of Golden Lord, or overpowering them with enough Shaddolls on the field. And Schism actually does enough work. Lately people have been knocking this off the field, that's fine. If this is gone, you focus on the Golden Lord and use that as many times as possible. Alright, going into the extra, I play the triple construct. Can't play less than this. Invoked versions maybe, but even then you miss out on the third one. Most of the times you can go through 2. I've actually went through 3 before on your first turn, but most of the time you go through 2. So playing less than 3 is suboptimal for pure / Magistus Shaddoll build. And then I play the 2 App Cologne. I'm actually gonna try and drop one of these if I manage to find a copy of Super Soldier BLS, the Link 3, using that as an OTK button in this deck, or just something to float to, because you have many Shaddolls that are level 7 up. You can use them, go to that as a matter of disruption or finishing the games. But double App Cologne for me was actually brilliant, using this in your opponent's turn to destroy a dark monster through the Schism, as well as switching off a field spell or a face-up card on their side of the field has been brilliant so far. I've actually found myself not using the second one as much as I'd want to. Sometimes with bricked hands I can summon this to the extra monster zone and link it off, and then add the Schism directly from deck to hand. But that's about it. There's more than one hasn't really come up for me, but I just have the extra one just in case it does. Obviously 2 El Shaddoll Winder, best card in the deck, kills all your special summon decks going forward. They have a hard time playing through this. They actually have to add cards from their side deck to try and out this. A lot of the decks now don't have in-deck outs for this card, and sometimes so that it forces them to main deck either a card for your type of build, but they never expect the Golden Lord going in. So they punch over this, it's fine. You make another one, and in your turn you summon the Golden Lord, and they're screwed. And then deck card of choice. I prefer playing the 1 Shekinaga. I see a lot of people don't play this card. They're sleeping on this card. So use as booty, summoning this thing in your second turn, having it just chill on the field while your effects resolve in the graveyard. This actually protects you a lot more than what you think. Even if all your plays are stopped, just leaving this in defense mode on your turn and ending with back row or a set monster on the field can sometimes be enough to trigger a lot of things in your opponent's next turn. 1 Gravity Controller is mandatory in this deck. I played the 1 Verta Anaconda, just for if your plays got stopped, you can link off for this, fuse out of the deck. This actually, you can actually use your Shaddoll Fusion and El Shaddoll Fusion more than once through this card. So once you've used your first one in your turn, summoned something, use the effect, linked off for this, use it again if your opponent has a extra deck monster. That's something a lot of people don't know about. And then we played the 1 IP Masquerader for the combo with Nightmare Unicorn. Just the standard Shaddoll Schism combo back in the day, still viable now, as well as using the IP going into access code, making the access code indestructible. It's come up a few times. Played the one Cross Sheep, also Earth Target for when you have Shaddoll Fusion on the field as well, and your players have stopped. Using the Shaddoll Fusion with Cross Sheep and a Shaddoll in your opponent's turn just to add an additional negate on the field has come up more than once. And just the additional summon back from the graveyard is, I use this and I loop the Crusader many times. You float it back in, link it off, set another card face down, destroy a back row. That combo has been very great for me. And just the one access code and then the one Artemis. This card has made the Shaddoll deck a lot better, especially any of your invoke variants. This card has saved a lot of extra deck space in the form of just the one. You don't need the Secure Gardener anymore, so this has actually replaced that. And then access code, obviously, just to finish off games. This was the best card for me. I had a bit of a hard time making something like Borrel Sword because I'd never have enough links on the field, or you'll be stuck with just the unicorn, and you need 2-3+ monsters for the Borrel Sword. So climbing into this was a lot easier, but again, like I said, I had a hard time killing the opponent with just the access code, so I added in the Golden Lord, which helps for that. And then if I get the BLS link, that will be an additional way to kill the opponents. And for the side deck, I played the Gammas and the Brick, just because if you go second, I want to actually see if you see this with your Shaddoll Fusion, I want to have the Shaddoll Fusion, or give it as much chance to resolve, because that's one of the cards that would actually break through your opponent's board. So using the Gamma to help facilitate the play is the best option that I thought would actually go, but I didn't have the space in the main deck for this, and it's just ridiculous how broken this card has become for this format, specifically removing the threats off the field. And once this resolve, having extra materials on your side of the field to link into something like Cross Sheep to go into access code in the later stage, that's helped a lot for me personally. And then just the additionals was the Ghost Bell and the Drolls for your Drytrons, your Tri-Brigades. This has actually helped a lot. Players that like to banish a lot of your cards, you just add this in with your additional board to block them from banishing your Shaddolls from the graveyard once you try and get the Schism off. Or just using this to protect the Schism has come up a lot more than using this as a hand trap against the opponent. And then just the one Feather Duster. I haven't seen a lot of back row decks lately for my format, but I just had the one card just to, in case it comes up, so it was there, just haven't seen it. And then board breaking cards like the Super Polys. This is a fusion based deck. This card still kills a lot of decks going forward. There are still darks in the format, and even if you have to normal summon one of your darks and then super polying that off, getting rid of the threat instantly is awesome. And then just the one super poly target, for me the Starving Venom was the best option. I don't see as many dog invokes on my side, so this for me was the best card, but you can swap this out for the Predator Plant if that's what works for you. Please like and subscribe. Please comment your opinions, if you like the deck, if you don't like the deck, any tech choices you guys feel is better for my area, this or my locals. This is what helped me, and I'll see you next time.